Welcome to From Betrayal to Breakthrough, and here's a mini dose of Dr. Debbie, where I'm sharing tips, suggestions, strategies, and sometimes just a little motivation to have you move past your betrayal once and for all. Hi there. So if you were betrayed a long time ago, I mean, I'm even talking decades ago, and you're like, I never, ever in a million years would have thought that something from so long ago is impacting me now. Of course, time heals everything, right? This episode is for you. I'm bringing this up because I have heard just over the past couple of weeks from so many people where they just assumed time would heal it, right? I mean, time heals all wounds. Well, it doesn't, not when it comes to betrayal. And in fact, until and unless you've heard me say this, you intentionally and deliberately heal it, it follows you around in your work, in your health, in your relationships. So let's just start by saying you're not crazy, you're not alone, and you can heal from all of it. Because the other thing that happens with betrayal is we feel like we're crazy. We're like, why is this hitting me so hard? I've been through other stuff. Why is this? It just feels different. Well, it is. And that was, for those who aren't familiar, I did a PhD study. It made 3 discoveries, but let's just back up. You don't do a PhD in betrayal unless you need to. So here it was. I had my family betrayal, and then years ago, and then I thought I did everything I needed to do to heal from that. It happened a few years later. This time it was my husband. That was the deal breaker. I got him out of the house. Here I was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, my business, and I just had to heal. There wasn't an option. I had to be there for my kids, for my clients. And usually my go-to is, okay, find a book, find a course, find a program, find a person who can help. And I just couldn't find anything. I couldn't find a book, a program, a course, anything. And this was so big that I needed something so big. So I enrolled in this PhD program and to study, the mind and why people do these things and how I can heal. And then when it was time to do a study, of course, I chose betrayal. And I really just did it because I needed a way to be there for my kids, for my clients. But I do remember a moment. It was one of those moments where I said, I to myself, I have no idea how I can heal from this. But if I do, I'm taking everybody with me. And it was a knowing, because here I am, a highly sensitive empath with integrity as my number one value. So there wasn't, the pain was so great. Of course, it's so huge for everybody, but I couldn't even justify healing and that being enough. I mean, which is huge. For me, it was like, no. This injustice was so huge. The assault on my self, all of it was so gigantic that the only way I could make any sort of sense out of this was if a million people could be helped through my pain and what I had been through. So that was sort of the commitment, and it drove the healing and it drove the intensity to find a way through this. So the first discovery showed up, and it was so exciting, because then in fact we learned, yes, betrayal is a different type of trauma that needs a different way to heal. I wasn't crazy. I had been through death of a loved one. I'd been through disease, and I was like, man, betrayal just feels so different. Why is that? Well, it's because, first of all, it is because of the shattering of the self, rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust, right? Like when you lose someone you love, you grieve, you're sad, you mourn, the lost life will never be the same. But you don't necessarily question that relationship, right? You don't question, wait a second, when I was thinking this, were they really thinking this? When I was doing this, were they really doing that? And with betrayal, you do. So that betrayal is a different type of trauma. That was the first discovery. And the challenge is that most people look to heal their betrayal the same way they would heal another, let's say, mental emotional issue. But it's different and it needs to be handled differently. So, of course, if you've been through that, now hopefully you're like, Oh, that's why whatever I was doing, the typical, let's say therapy or whatever, isn't working. And I'm bringing up therapy and because we have so many people who come into the PBT Institute with therapy trauma. These are well-meaning, amazing, wonderful therapists. However, if they are not highly skilled in betrayal, what will happen is you will feel heard, you will feel validated, you will feel understood. And you're actually solidifying your spot. If you've heard me ever talk about the 5 stages from betrayal to breakthrough, if one thing glues you to the hardest place to leave, which is stage 3, it's feeling heard, validated, understood without knowing there's anywhere else to go. So we start planting deeper and deeper and deeper roots there. So again, another reason why I hope you realize you're not crazy. This is something we see all the time. So betrayal is a different type of trauma that needs a different way to heal. And also, the other thing is we look at it saying, well, it was so much for me emotionally. And so we look to handle it emotionally. But betrayal hits you on every single level, physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. So all of those areas need to be addressed in order to fully move forward. So hopefully this gives you that confirmation where you're saying, oh my gosh, all these years, I thought, why is it that I just can't get over it? It's not that simple. It's a very different type of trauma where, like, let's just go back to losing someone you love. Yes, your life is impacted greatly or hugely, right? But not necessarily the self. When the self is shattered and your life is shattered, it's a big cleanup, right? So that was the first discovery. It needs a very different way to heal because of the attack to the self. And think about it. This is usually someone that we're closest to. So it's a shock to the body, mind, and heart. This is the person when other people are causing harm. This is who you ran to. Well, this is the person now who's causing the harm. Or this was the person that gave you a sense of safety and security. And this is the very person who has taken that sense of safety and security away. This is the person, this is your ride or die, right? And now this is the person. It's like, what the heck? What happened to my person? So there's so many things that we need to move through, and it shatters our identity. If we've created an identity around, okay, this is my work, these are my kids, this is my relationship, this is my life, where I go, what I do, all of a sudden everything comes into question. And that's also because trust is shattered. And when trust is shattered, we trust nothing, because the natural step here is this was the person we trusted the most, and they've proven untrustworthy. So then the next part of that is, where was I? How did I not see? How did I not know? Well, if I can't trust the person I trusted the most, and I don't trust myself, well, how in the world can I trust in anything and anyone? You see how far reaching this is? So that's what happens just with this first discovery. So the second discovery was that there's this collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal. It's known as Post Betrayal Syndrome. Now, we've had over 100,000 people take our Post Betrayal Syndrome quiz to see to what extent they're struggling. And here's the other thing. When I say we've heard time heals all wounds, and I have the proof that that's not true. And you may have heard me say this. We have people, there's a question on the quiz that says, is there anything else you'd like to share? And people write things like, well, my betrayal happened 40 years ago. I can still feel the hate. My betrayal happened 15 years ago. It feels like it happened yesterday. My betrayal happened 35 years ago. I'll never trust again. So we know it is not the kind of thing we can simply count on time or even a new relationship to heal. It needs to be deliberate and intentional. And let's just say we were betrayed as a kid, right? Let's say you're a little kid and a family member did something painful. Well, if that's not addressed and healed, think about this. You move into your future relationships, not because they're good, they're just so familiar. You know how they work, you know how it goes, you know how it feels, where your role, what your role is in this type of scenario. And that's kind of how we live our life until here's the idea, until we get the mother of all betrayals, and then we're like, wait a second. Because what happens is the faces change, but it's the same thing. And we go from person to person to person, boss to boss to boss, friend to friend to friend, partner to partner to partner. And we say, is it me? Yes, it is. Not in that it's your fault, in that it's your opportunity. There is a huge, huge lesson waiting to be learned. Maybe the lesson is just get it already that you are lovable, that you are worthy, that you are deserving. Understand here, and let's create it. You need better boundaries in place. Understand that already, right? Until and unless you get that, you will have opportunities in the form of people to teach you. And then you do get that mother of all betrayals, and you're like, that's it. And then everything changes. Well, if you know my story, right, that was what happened with me. It was finally when I had never done anything for myself. It was all about everybody else always. For me to enroll in a PhD program, I hadn't been to school in 30 years. I mean, and to take something on to that extent, and it was for me that big, and the expense and all of it. But look what happened. It changed my entire life, changed how I look at myself, how I feel. It changed all of it. And so when we get that lesson, that's trauma well served. But speaking of post-betrayal syndrome, there are so many symptoms that we walk around with that we just assume, oh, it's just aging. Oh, it's just stress. No, it's not. It's your unhealed betrayal, even if it happened years ago. And you can have symptoms like you're exhausted, or you sleep all night, you're still exhausted. Well, think about it. Your sleep is completely disrupted. You're not having deep restorative quality sleep, because especially even if you were able to keep things, at a bit of a distance during the day because you were distracted with your work or with your kids or with your elderly parents or whatever else you had going on. Well, at night it comes back in full force. So you're not sleeping well. Well, sleep is when it is deep. If it's deep and restorative, you're healing during that time. So you're reducing or eliminating a lot of the time that you could be healing. Or your immune system is suppressed, so you don't have the ability to fight things off that you used to. Accelerated aging, you go look in the mirror, you're like, who is this? I don't even recognize this person because of this accelerated aging. Or gut issues, digestive issues. 45% of everyone betrayed has a digestive issue. So think about it. You go to all these amazing, great digestive experts. They're putting you on a beautiful protocol. But if you don't get to the root of it, which is this unhealed betrayal, you're just it's sort of symptom relief at best. But the problem isn't going away, which is the unhealed betrayal. And it's so interesting, because even in Trust Again, I write about some of my study participants and some of their symptoms. And I remember one of them, she would go to the hospital regularly with, I think it was not Crohn's, or maybe it was IBS. It was one of those, really colitis. Maybe it was colitis. And I mean, she would have these attacks, and it was so painful that she had to go to the hospital. And then once she started healing, she never had to go to the hospital for that again. It completely went away, which is so common. So if you're experiencing these symptoms, it is due to an unhealed betrayal, even if it happened decades ago. Or think about it. I mean, this one makes total sense, right? If you're hypervigilant, well, of course, your nervous system is completely dysregulated. You can't focus, you can't concentrate. Well, think about how that's going to affect your work. If you can't focus or concentrate, you may be busy, but you're not going to be productive. You're not going to be cranking out the amount of product or services or showing up or however you're supposed to in your work, because you just can't focus. So it takes a huge, huge toll on us physically as well. Again, all tied to a betrayal, even if it happened decades ago, if it's been unhealed. And now the third discovery was that there's a collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal. It's known as post-betrayal syndrome, right? That was the second one. The third was that while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and so many people do, if we're going to fully heal, we will move through 5 proven predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is We know what happens physically, mentally, emotionally at every stage, and we know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. Healing is entirely predictable. And what's so beautiful was first of all, I'll never forget the moment where my study chair, I kept handing over all my research. And I remember one day, just getting that email saying, Debbie, I believe you've discovered a process here. And it was, here was this repeatable, predictable process to fully move through these stages. And it just sort of jumped out at us where the order doesn't change. You don't skip a stage, but if you're going to fully heal, you will move through all 5 of them. Now, here's the thing. Most people stop in stage 3. And the more validation you get for being there, the more you just don't believe there's a way out of it or that you can get out of it, the more stuck you will be. And then what happens is you have all of the symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome, and you're medicating and suppressing the symptoms, and you're not feeling great. You're surviving, but you are nowhere near great at all. You're medicating, suppressing, surviving, and then day after day after day after day, you're getting reconfirmed, revalidated, re-traumatized, and you're stuck in that stage 3. And then you're like, oh, I really miss a partner, or I miss, my old partner. And then let's say you just get back together with that person. Well, nothing has really changed. So now here you are living a stage 3 life, having another stage 3 relationship with that person or with someone new. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So it is so common. That's where repeat betrayals come from, because until and unless you get yourself out of stage 3, then what happens is the only thing that can happen is more of stage 3, because that's where you're at. So you will find stage 3 people. You will make stage 3 decisions. You will have stage 3 thoughts. You can't help it. That's where you are. And so this is the part where people get really angry, because they say, oh my gosh, they learn about the stages and they say, I have spent, 10, 20, 30, 40 plus years in stage 3. And as aggravating as that may be, I look at it saying, you could have spent another 10, 20, 30, 40 plus years if you didn't learn this right now. So what are you going to do with this now that you know that? So now that you know there are 5 stages, and if you found you've been living in stage 3, then okay, what will you do about that? It's so interesting because we have, I would say, at least half of the coaches and practitioners that I certify to become a certified PBT, post-betrayal transformation coach or practitioner, they have been through it, at least 50%. I'd even say it's safe to say 75%. And they're doing it to move through finally move through their own and fully move through their own experience. And then they're so excited. They're like, oh my gosh, there's a roadmap here. And if I can do this, let me do this for other people. Let me help other people. So they become, they want to become certified so that they can help their clients as well, which is just a beautiful thing. And when I think about it, going back to my original thought where I said, I have no idea how I'm going to heal from this, but if I do, I'm taking everybody with me. And the way I can do that is through certifying as many coaches as possible, because the more coaches we have, the more clients they have, the more people get healed. And that's truly, then I look at it and say, okay, highly sensitive empath with integrity as your highest value. That makes a lot of sense. Now you can feel really good about something so painful. So, also, is rebuilding a choice? Yes, it is. Is rebuilding possible? Yes, it is. Is it predictable? Yes, it is. Whether you rebuild yourself and move along, and that's what I did with my family. It just wasn't an option to rebuild with them, because they were deeply, deeply stuck in stage 3. And when you have very little to work with, then you either sabotage your own healing or realize, okay, it's not me. Let me heal and move along. Because at this stage, at this current level of consciousness that they're at, this is the best I can do. And that's okay. So then I healed and moved along. Or, if the situation lends itself, if you're willing, if you want to, you crash and burn for real and rebuild something entirely new with the person who hurt you. And that's what I did with my husband. So, not long ago, as two completely rebuilt people, we married each other again. New rings, new vows, new dress, and our 4 kids as our bridal party. Now, and I've said this many times, betrayal will show you who someone truly is. It also has the opportunity to wake them up to who they temporarily became. Not that you need to do anything with that, but there's tremendous potential if you do. Now, I have lost loved ones. I have had disease. I have been in the ICU for 11 days. For me, there was nothing harder than rebuilding an entirely new relationship with my husband as two very different people. Because when I say, and you probably have heard me say this, hard now, easy later, easy now, hard later, take your pick. It's going to be one of those two. When it comes to healing and rebuilding after betrayal, when I say hard now, I'm talking about you are taking on every thought you have, every belief you have, every habit you have. And as it comes in, you say, is this still worth keeping, or have I outgrown this? Is it time to let this go? And you're keeping all the parts you love, and you leave behind everything that no longer serves. And you create this version of you that is so deliberate, that is so intentional. Like if you realize, wow, you know what? I never really stood up for my needs, or I never really had boundaries, or I settled, whatever it was for you. You have an opportunity to, when that comes up again, what am I going to do with that? Am I going to bring in the old? Well, you don't create a new version of you that way, right? So then you're like, oh, only if you love that whatever it was that you were doing of the old, you keep that, of course. But let's say there's an opportunity, and if you don't stand up, boundaries will be overstepped again. Here's your moment. Here's your moment right here. This is hard. This is really hard because everybody got used to you a certain way. And now it's like, wait a second, what's this all about? Why is he or she all of a sudden, not putting up with this, or not standing for this, or not whatever? And they don't like it because they kind of knew who you were another way. But you're rewriting the script around how people treat you, around who you are. And it's disorienting for everybody, including you, because everyone sort of knew you one way, but or even like, let's say you work somewhere and everybody knew, okay, I can just dump everything on this person, or I can just give them that extra work at the end of the day. They'll never say anything. And now all of a sudden you do. Well, it's going to cause a bit of what was that about? Well, what's going on here? Well, you're changing the rules. So when I say hard now, easy later, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Because by rewriting the rules, by changing the script, by saying no, by doing all these things, easy later. Now you have secured that. Let's say you say no to those extra things that land on your desk, right? Well, now easy later, you have your time. You see things like that. But what so many people do is they go for the easy now, hard later. And because nothing changes. Now, I know there are people say easy now, but I'm in so much pain. This stinks. Well, of course it does. And that's because nothing has really changed. You're in a very painful scenario. But if the new boundaries aren't being created, if you're not saying no, if you're not standing up for yourself, if you're not being honest with who you are and what you need now, that's what I'm talking about. But I'm not saying it's easy to start speaking up and laying down these boundaries. This is very hard. And that's what's creating this new version of you. And what betrayal does is it cracks you wide open. And now that you're piecing yourself together again, you want to assess and say, can I piece it together in the exact same way and hope time fixes it? Well, that's not, when you think of, is that in your best interest? If you felt great about it, that's one thing, but you don't. That's where you lose your confidence, because you're saying, am I just the recipient of this betrayal? Am I just here to, experience this and be treated a certain way? Okay, let me just get over it so that it can happen again. I mean, that's kind of crazy, right? So you want to move through this so that you see things from that stage 5 perspective, because in stage 5, just stage 4, you're thinking stage 4 thoughts, making stage 4 decisions. Same with stage 5. You're thinking stage 5 thoughts, making stage 5 decisions. Like the PBT Institute, that was a stage 5 thing. Marrying my husband again, that was a stage 5 thing. I didn't have access to thoughts like that or ideas like that when I was stuck in my trauma. So when people say to me, well, what do I do? Do I rebuild? Do I, with this person, do I move along? And I always say, get yourself to stage 5, because then your decisions are made from a place of strength and clarity versus scarcity and fear. So I want to wrap this up by just saying it was to know what these discoveries have done for so many people is so helpful, because, and I hope you know them now, because I want you to realize, truly embody the idea that you're not crazy. This was a very different type of trauma that needs a different way to heal. When you're struggling with those symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome, I want you to realize, oh, it's because I never really did the work to move through it. I may have spoken to a therapist a couple of times, or even years and years and years, and oh, I get it. That's why, I still feel, I feel heard, and I'm still in stage 3, or I'm medicating and suppressing those symptoms, but they're not going away. So what's going on with that? We're not supposed to have symptoms. We're not supposed to live with symptoms. It doesn't work that way. You're supposed to heal. The body knows how. The body wants to be healthy. And if you find that, wow, I really do feel stuck, I have repeat betrayals, or the other part of that is I just keep everybody at a distance because I'm unwilling to risk that level of vulnerability again. My heart was hurt so badly, I don't want to open it up to anybody. I'm not taking that chance. 67% of everybody betrayed, that's what they do. They put the big wall up. And they're like, no one's getting close to me again. That's not fair to you. What about the intimacy and the love that you deserve? That's all waiting for you when you heal. So I hope all of this made sense. And if you feel called, let's say you're a coach or a practitioner of some kind, and you're thinking, this is a gigantic demographic that is so underserved because it's true. I'm going to be hosting a masterclass on July 15th, and I would love for you to join me. It's a free masterclass, and I'm going to be going over the stages. I'm going to be going over what's involved in being a certified PBT coach or practitioner. There is no other certification on the planet like this. And if you want to clean up your own stuff and then be in a position to help others move through the 5 stages, I would love for you to join me so I can teach you all about what the research proved, the 5 stages, and trust your gut. If this feels like something that you may be interested in, it's, just join me for the masterclass. Again, no, there's no commitment. You just register for it. So that's going to be at the PBT, as in post-betrayal transformation, thepbtinstitute.com/certification-masterclass. So if you're feeling like, well, I've been a coach for a really long time, but I've been betrayed, and I think it may be something that I'm interested in to help others move through this. I've been in business 33 years. I pour everything into this certification and helping others make the impact that they want to, whether it's just locally, whether it's globally. We now have certified PBT coaches representing PBT in the Middle East, in Kenya, in Vietnam, and because it's a very different culture, price structure. So we have representatives who are certified taking on those regions. So it's a very exciting development, and so much more. So whether you're local, whether you're global, it doesn't matter. If this feels like something that resonates, trust your gut and join me. So thepbtinstitute.com/certification-masterclass. I hope to see you there. So again, just to wrap this up, you're not crazy at all. You're not alone, and you can heal from all of it. You're here. I am. I'm someone who's done it. Our coaches have done it. Our members have done it, and you can too. That collection of symptoms, again, they heal as you move through the 3rd discovery, the 5 stages, from betrayal to breakthrough. So I hope you got what you needed from this episode. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. You need the right tools, support, and the right community to move you through the 5 stages from betrayal to breakthrough. And we have all of that within the PBT Institute. So join us at the PBT, as in Post Betrayal Transformation, thepbtinstitute.com. There's a version of you who's so confident, healthy, peaceful, and happy on the other side of your healing, and we can't wait to help you get there. We got you. Thanks for listening, and here's to your breakthrough.